Have you ever wondered why you never finish what you start? Why your projects always end up half done, while you watch others move forward without stopping? Today, I'm going to reveal the most powerful technique that will transform your ability to execute. The one more technique that Napoleon Hill discovered after studying the most successful people of his time. In the next few minutes, you'll discover how a simple shift in your mindset can break the chains of procrastination for good. Most people think procrastination is a laziness problem, but Napoleon Hill found it's actually a problem of momentum and scattered focus. Have you ever started something with excitement, only to feel that initial fire fizzle out a few days later? You're not alone. 95% of people abandon their projects before seeing results, but today, that changes for you. The one more technique is so simple it seems impossible that it works, but so powerful it's transformed millions of lives. Ready to discover it? Let's dive in. Procrastination is the silent killer of dreams. It disguises itself as, "I'll do it tomorrow," "I need more information," or "it's not the right time." But behind these excuses hides the real enemy. Fear. Fear of failure. Fear of success. Fear of finding out you might not be as good as you thought. Napoleon Hill understood this perfectly when he said, "Procrastination is the weed that grows in the garden of opportunity." And today we're going to rip it out by the roots. If you like this content, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more techniques that will transform your productivity and your life. Let's start with the first key to mastering the one more technique and breaking the cycle of procrastination for good. The first step to becoming unstoppable is understanding the power of instant decision-making. Most people live delaying decisions, waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect information, the perfect situation. But Napoleon Hill discovered, after interviewing over 500 millionaires, that successful people decide quickly and change their minds slowly. Every time you postpone a decision, you give away your power. Every time you say, "I'll think about it tomorrow," you're handing over control of your life. And as long as you keep procrastinating, you'll remain predictable, easy to manipulate, and most importantly, easy to defeat. Hill talked about how delayed decisions reflect our unresolved inner insecurities. In other words, if you struggle to decide, if something paralyzes you, it's not because it's hard, it's because there's something inside you that you haven't yet mastered. And here's the core problem. Why is deciding so hard for you? Because you care too much about things you shouldn't. You care too much about others' opinions. You care too much about the risk of being wrong. You care too much about keeping all your options open. Truly focused people have understood something most never grasp. Not every decision deserves your mental agony or your energy. Every time you spend hours deliberating over something you could decide in minutes, you're showing that indecision has control over you. But what happens when you learn to decide instantly? When someone asks you something, and you respond clearly without hesitation. When an opportunity arises, and you know exactly if it aligns with your goals or not. When chaos surrounds you and you stay on course without wavering, that's when you become unstoppable. How do you train your mind to decide quickly? Start by implementing the 5-second rule. When a decision aligns with your goals, count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and act. Don't give your mind time to make excuses. Napoleon Hill said, "Indecision is the thief of opportunity," and he was right. Try this. The next time you need to make a decision, ask yourself, does this bring me closer to my main goal? If the answer is yes, decide in less than 5 seconds. You'll be amazed to find that most decisions paralyzing you today don't need more analysis. They need more action. Success doesn't favor those who think the most, but those who act the most. Try this exercise. For 1 week, every time you're tempted to postpone a decision related to your goals, decide right then and there. Notice how your body reacts. Tension, discomfort, anxiety. It's all normal. It's the resistance that comes when you start reclaiming your power. Make a list of decisions you've been putting off and analyze why. Every night ask yourself, how many decisions did I make today without delaying? Visualize the version of you that no longer hesitates, that decides and acts without wavering. When this becomes a habit, something starts to shift inside you. You begin to see the world from a different level, And the best part, when you learn to decide quickly, your ability to execute multiplies exponentially. And that's what we'll talk about next, how the one more technique completely transforms your ability to execute and eliminates procrastination for good. The second crucial element of the one more technique is the principle of constant momentum. Napoleon Hill called it momentum and considered it one of the best-kept secrets of history's greatest achievers. What exactly is constant momentum? It's the ability to take one more step when everything and everyone tells you to stop. It's doing one more rep when your muscles scream to quit. It's writing one more page when your mind insists you've done enough. There's a truth few understand. Success isn't the result of occasional big efforts, but of small consistent efforts that, added up day after day, create unstoppable momentum. It's what Napoleon Hill discovered studying Thomas Edison, who failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. It wasn't a moment of brilliance that brought success, but his ability to do one more every day, no matter the failures. The common mistake is believing motivation must come before action. You wait to feel inspired to start working. You wait to feel like exercising. You wait for the perfect moment to start your business. But here's the truth you need to understand today. Action comes before motivation, not the other way around. Ask yourself, how many times have you abandoned a project just before seeing results? How many times have you stopped exercising right when you were about to notice changes in your body? How many times have you quit learning just when you were starting to master a skill? Here's the truth Napoleon Hill uncovered. The exact point where most people give up is precisely the point where success was just around the corner. It's what he called 3 inches of gold, that small extra stretch that separates winners from losers. Truly focused and productive people have learned to push forward exactly when they feel they can't go on. They don't stop when they're tired. They stop when they're done. They don't negotiate with their lazy mind. They dominate it. How do you develop this constant momentum? Adopt the one more mindset. When you feel you've hit your limit, do one more page, one more call, one more hour, one more try. That one more is where the magic of growth happens. Napoleon Hill explained it this way. Persistence is to the character of man what carbon is to steel. It strengthens you, tempers you, transforms you into something unbreakable. But persistence isn't just doing the same thing expecting different results. That's insanity. Persistence is adjusting your approach while keeping the goal. Try this exercise in your life. The next time you feel like giving up, like you've hit your limit, commit to doing one more. If you've written 4 pages and you're exhausted, write just one more. If you've made 10 sales calls and you're discouraged, make just one more. If you've run 5 kilometers and your legs are shaking, run just 500 meters more. You'll be amazed to find that one more often breaks the psychological barrier holding you back. It's in that extra effort where you'll discover reserves of strength you didn't know you had. Repeat this phrase every morning. Today, I'll do one more than I think I can. Make it your personal mantra. Write it where you can see it constantly. And here's the ultimate proof you need to adopt this mindset. Look at any extraordinarily successful person, and you'll see they're not necessarily the most talented, the smartest, or the one with the most opportunities. They're simply the one who did one more when everyone else stopped. The real power of constant momentum is that it not only brings you closer to your goals but transforms your identity. You no longer see yourself as someone who tries. You see yourself as someone who achieves. You're no longer someone who tests. You're someone who persists until the end. When you master the one more technique, your energy changes. You no longer live in a state of starts and stops, but of constant progress. People perceive you differently because the determination of someone who never gives up is magnetic. But there's an even more powerful element than constant momentum, and it's knowing exactly where to focus it. That's what we'll talk about next, which can exponentially multiply the results of your effort. The third key to the one more technique is the power of absolute focus. In a world where everything competes for your attention, those who master concentration have an unmatched advantage. Napoleon Hill explained it clearly. The ability to concentrate attention on one problem until it's completely solved is the mark of genius. We live in the age of distraction. Notifications, emails, social media, news, opinions, everything seeks to fragment your attention. The result? People with scattered minds, unable to dive deep, constantly jumping from one task to another without completing anything meaningful. Sound familiar? You start working on an important project, but 10 minutes in, you're checking your phone. You begin reading a book, but your mind wanders after 2 pages. You start a deep conversation, but your attention fades when the other person talks for more than a minute. This is the great saboteur of modern success, the inability to stay focused on one thing long enough to master it. Napoleon Hill discovered that all highly productive people shared this quality, the ability to enter what he called the white fire of focus, that mental state where the outside world disappears and only the task in front of you exists. But most people have no control over their attention or mental energy. They jump from one idea to another, from one project to another, scattering their potential and diluting their impact. And every jump, every interruption, every shift in focus comes with a huge cost in productivity and results. The psychology of focus and its impact on success is clear. Every time you split your attention, you reduce your power. Every time you allow interruptions, you sabotage your performance. Every time you try to do multiple things at once, you guarantee mediocrity in all of them. Napoleon Hill put it perfectly. The mind cannot hold 2 thoughts at the same time. When you try to focus in multiple directions, you're not really focused on any. How do you develop this absolute focus? First, understand that focus isn't a talent you're born with, it's a skill you build. And like any skill, it improves with deliberate practice. Start by implementing the time-blocking technique. Uninterrupted periods dedicated to a single task. Begin with 25-minute blocks and gradually increase. During that time, nothing else exists. No phone, no email, no distractions. Napoleon Hill recommended what he called the golden hour, the first 60 minutes after waking, dedicated solely to your most important project. In that hour, your mind is fresh, the day's distractions haven't started, and you can accomplish more than in 3 hours of fragmented work later. Train your mind to notice when it starts to wander, and gently bring it back to the task at hand. Like a muscle, your attention will strengthen with this repeated exercise. Eliminate multitasking from your life. It's an illusion that makes you feel busy, but keeps you unproductive. Napoleon Hill insisted, concentrate all your mind on the task at hand. The sun's rays don't burn until they're focused. Try this exercise. Each day, pick one important task and apply the one more technique to focus. If you managed 25 minutes of uninterrupted focus yesterday, aim for 26 today. If you read 10 pages without distraction, try for 11. That extra minute, that extra page, is where the neural growth happens, expanding your capacity for focus. Use strategic breaks. After intense periods of focus, take short breaks to recharge your mind. They're not a sign of weakness, they're an essential part of sustaining focus. The result of mastering absolute focus is transformative. When you control your attention, instead of letting others control it, your productivity skyrockets. Tasks that used to take hours are completed in minutes. Projects that seemed overwhelming become manageable when you approach them with laser focus. Some people will feel uncomfortable with your new level of focus. They'll call you too intense, too obsessive. Others will try to interrupt you constantly because your focus reminds them of their own distraction. But when you stay the course, they'll inevitably respect you more. Here's the key. When you become a person of singular focus, the world adapts to you, not the other way around. Distractions lose their power, interruptions decrease, and your ability to achieve the extraordinary multiplies. But there's something even more powerful than absolute focus, the art of relentless execution, and that's what we'll talk about next. The fourth essential element of the one more technique is the principle of relentless execution. No matter how brilliant your strategy, how ambitious your goals, or how deep your knowledge, without execution, it's all wasted potential. Napoleon Hill put it clearly. Knowledge will not attract money unless it is organized and intelligently directed through practical plans of action. In other words, Knowing what to do isn't enough. Doing it is what makes the difference. Most people live in a perpetual state of planning. They study, research, design perfect strategies, but never move to decisive action. They get stuck in analysis paralysis, that mental state where they always need one more fact, one more tip, one more detailed plan before starting. Sound familiar? You buy courses you never finish. You read books whose lessons you never apply. You develop business plans you never implement. And meanwhile, life moves on, and opportunities slip away. Truly productive people have understood this. Imperfect execution beats perfect planning. They'd rather execute a B plan today than perfect an A plan forever. Napoleon Hill studied Henry Ford, who didn't wait to fully understand how an engine worked before building cars. He started with what he knew and learned the rest along the way. That's the mindset of relentless execution. Why does execution change your energy? Because it moves you from the realm of theory to the realm of reality. When you execute, you get real data, not assumptions. You discover obstacles no planning could predict. And most importantly, you build the most valuable habit for success, the ability to act despite uncertainty. The problem is, we've been taught to fear failure, to avoid mistakes, to seek perfection before acting. But the truth is the opposite. Mistakes are the price of the most valuable education. They're the path, not a detour. When you execute relentlessly, you don't just move toward your goals. You become a person of action. And people of action are the ones who change the world. How do you develop this relentless execution? Adopt the 70% rule. When you have 70% of the information you need, act. The remaining 30% you'll figure out as you go. Napoleon Hill recommended what he called the definite decision, the unbreakable commitment to see an idea through to its logical conclusion, no matter the obstacles. It's not just deciding to do something, it's eliminating the possibility of not doing it. Implement the next obvious step technique. When you feel overwhelmed by a big project, don't think about the whole process. Just ask, what's the next obvious step I can take right now? Then execute that step without worrying about the rest. Set aggressive but realistic deadlines. As Napoleon Hill observed, a goal is just a dream with a deadline. Without a deadline, a project can expand infinitely. Deadlines create urgency, and urgency drives action. Try this exercise. Identify a project you've been delaying. Break it into concrete steps. Now, commit to executing one of those steps today. Not tomorrow, not when you feel inspired, not when you have more information. Today. Repeat this affirmation. I am a person of immediate action. I don't wait to feel ready. Action makes me ready. Internalize it until it becomes part of your identity. The real power of relentless execution is that it creates a virtuous cycle. Every action produces results. Results produce data. Data produces learning. Learning improves the next action. And so, your ability to execute effectively grows with each cycle. When you adopt this mindset, something shifts in how others perceive you. You're no longer the person who just talks about ideas. You're the one who makes them reality. You're no longer the perpetual planner. You're the one consistently delivering results. Some will feel threatened by your new execution ability. They'll say you're rushing, that you should plan more, that you're taking too many risks. Others will secretly admire you because deep down, everyone respects those with the courage to act. But there's an even higher level than relentless execution, and that's unwavering persistence in the face of adversity. When you combine execution with persistence, you become truly unstoppable. And that's what we'll talk about in our final point. The fifth and most powerful component of the One More technique is the principle of unwavering persistence. This is what separates the truly exceptional from the merely good. It's the ability to keep moving forward when everything and everyone tells you to give up. Napoleon Hill considered it so crucial that he dedicated an entire chapter in his masterpiece to persistence, describing it as essential to success as gasoline is to a car. And after studying the most successful figures of his time, from Thomas Edison to Henry Ford, he found persistence was the common denominator uniting them all. The uncomfortable truth is that failure isn't the result of insufficient ability, but of insufficient persistence. Most people give up just before reaching the tipping point that would change everything. Have you ever started a project with enthusiasm, but when you hit serious resistance, you began to doubt, to question if it's worth it, to look for an easier way out? It's a natural reaction, but it's exactly what's kept you where you are, instead of where you could be. Hill discovered that every great achievement, every fortune, every major breakthrough in human history came after long periods of apparent failure and difficulty. The difference wasn't talent or luck, but an absolute refusal to give up. When someone develops unwavering persistence, their energy completely shifts. They're no longer someone begging for opportunities, discouraged by criticism, or doubting in the face of obstacles. They become an unstoppable force that finds a way or makes one. People who reach this level carry a presence that's immediately felt. They don't need to announce it. It's evident in how they speak, how they move, how they respond to adversity. They've developed what Napoleon Hill called the habit of persistence, where moving forward becomes as natural as breathing. How do you cultivate this unwavering persistence? First, you must clearly define your purpose, the deep reason why you're pursuing your goal. As Hill said, the weakness of persistence is usually found in the lack of a definite purpose. When you know exactly why you're doing something, you'll find the strength to persist when circumstances get tough. Develop what Napoleon Hill called a burning desire, a passion so intense for your goal that obstacles seem insignificant in comparison. This desire isn't a simple "I want." It's a visceral need that consumes you. Adopt the temporary failure mindset. Hill insisted there's no such thing as definitive failure, only temporary results that don't match your expectations. Every apparent failure holds the seed of an equal or greater benefit, if you have the persistence to find it. Implement the habit of programmed persistence. Decide in advance how long you'll persist before considering a strategy change. Napoleon Hill recommended the commitment to continue, despite all obstacles, until the goal is achieved. This pre-commitment eliminates the temptation to give up when things get hard. Try this exercise. Identify the biggest challenge you're facing in your main project right now. Instead of seeing it as a reason to quit, ask, what lesson is here for me? How can I use this difficulty to strengthen my resolve? Then, take one more step toward your goal, despite that challenge. Repeat this Napoleon Hill affirmation daily. Persistence is to the character of man what carbon is to steel. Every obstacle you overcome tempers you, strengthens you, makes you more valuable. The result of developing unwavering persistence is transformative. People who doubted you begin to respect you. Opportunities that seemed out of reach start materializing. Problems that seemed insurmountable find unexpected solutions. Why? Because persistence doesn't just change your external circumstances. It changes who you are fundamentally. It turns you into someone who sees obstacles not as barriers, but as tests of your determination. Napoleon Hill observed that truly persistent people have 4 distinct traits: a definite purpose, self-confidence, initiative, and the habit of developing detailed plans. When you combine these with the "one more" technique, that commitment to always take one more step when others would stop, you become unstoppable. Some won't understand your persistence. They'll call you stubborn, obsessive, or unrealistic. But as Hill said, great achievements usually come from great sacrifices and are never the result of selfishness. True persistence isn't stubbornness. It's unwavering conviction in your vision and your ability to make it real. When you reach this level of persistence, the world responds differently. Doors that seemed closed begin to open. People who doubted you start following you. And most importantly, you experience yourself in a completely new way, as someone who can overcome any obstacle. This is the true power of the "one more" technique when applied to persistence. It turns you into someone who knows no limits, who doesn't accept no as a final answer, who always finds a way to keep moving forward. If you've made it this far, there's something you already know deep inside. The "one more" technique isn't just a strategy to overcome procrastination. It's a life philosophy that fundamentally transforms who you are. It's not just about doing one more rep at the gym, writing one more page in your book, or making one more call in your business. It's about becoming the kind of person who consistently goes further, who breaks through limits, who rejects mediocrity. Napoleon Hill discovered this after decades studying the most successful people of his time. Success isn't an event, it's a habit. And the most powerful habit you can develop is always doing one more, taking that extra step that separates the extraordinary from the ordinary. People who master this technique no longer play by the same rules as most. They don't seek the path of least resistance. They seek the path of greatest growth. They don't settle for enough. They always ask, what more can I do? They don't do the bare minimum. They do the maximum possible. And that's why the world treats them differently. Because when you stop settling, you become a magnet for opportunities. When you stop procrastinating, you become a source of inspiration. When you stop giving up at the first difficulty, you become a leader others want to follow. What happens when you adopt the one more technique is that your presence changes. You're no longer someone who can be ignored or underestimated. Mediocre relationships fade from your life, leaving only those who truly value excellence. Ordinary opportunities give way to extraordinary ones because your new energy attracts a different level of experiences. You gain a peace of mind you didn't know before because you're no longer drained by indecision, procrastination, and constant doubt. You know that no matter what happens, you'll always do one more. Ascertain this certainty gives you an unshakable confidence. But this doesn't happen overnight. It's a decision you must make every day, every hour, every minute. Every time you're tempted to settle, to procrastinate, to give up, you must remember, one more. Your challenge starting today is simple but profound. I want you to comment below the following statement to reaffirm your commitment to this transformation. I choose to be unstoppable. Today I adopt the one more technique in every area of my life. Let the world know you're no longer the person who used to procrastinate, who gave up at the first difficulty, who settled for less than they deserve. You're someone who always takes one more step, who persists when others quit, who executes when others only plan. And when you truly live this philosophy, when you weave it into every fiber of your being, you'll see the world start treating you the way you always deserved. Because the one more technique isn't just a strategy to beat procrastination, it's the path to your most powerful self, to the person you always knew you could be. If this video helped you, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and most importantly, subscribe and hit the bell icon to get more content that will transform your productivity and your life. Remember, there's always room for one more. See you in the next video.